From the Samsung Production Studios in the heart of Hazleton, Pennsylvania, it's your News 13.
Brought to you by SSPTV and the Standard Speaker.
Last year's school shooting in Connecticut left every school district rethinking its security. The security upgrade at Pottsville area, our top story on News 13 for this Monday. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kathy Bazinski. By this time next week, students in most area school districts will be heading back to class. In light of last year's school massacre in Connecticut and the recent shooting at a Monroe County public meeting, schools are tightening their security. Matthew Petrillo has more on the security upgrade in the Pottsville area school district.
There are more than 300 million guns in the United States, or roughly one for every American. And in the face of the country's recent massacres, the Pottsville area school district decided to implement new safety measures.
The board and our superintendent were interested in adding an additional layer of security.
When classes begin next week, students at all Pottsville schools will be greeted by off-duty police. The officers will be armed and stationed at all school entrances.
A security measure less invasive than metal detectors or things of that nature.
But not less expensive. The school district will be paying part-time officers $15 an hour, money that some students say could be better spent on their education.
I would feel a little safer, but at the same time I would feel the same because nothing really happens here.
But Principal Reedy says never say never.
It could potentially happen anywhere. That's why we are addressing it proactively in hopes that we wouldn't have a catastrophic situation.
Now, other than the officers, the school has a whole bunch of other security measures. This building is always locked, and you can't get in without first identifying yourself through these speakers. And once you're inside the school, you're going to want to come here to the main office. That's where they'll take down your name, who you're visiting, and why. And they're even going to take your picture and keep it in your records. So you better smile. The district also has dozens of security cameras that can see where the security officers can't. But it's unclear how long the district will be able to pay for the officers. The district superintendent couldn't be reached for comment today. And critics say the only way to prevent future massacres is to pass tighter gun control laws. But no major gun legislation has passed Congress since 1994. And there appears to be little political will at the federal and state level to change that. Matthew Petrillo, News 13, Pottsville.
A familiar name in the Republican Party, Choice has filled its open ballot position for Luzerne County Controller in the November election. The Luzerne County Republican Party has designated former Luzerne County Prothonotary Caroline Medico-Olenjinsky to take Walter Griffith's spot on the ballot for County Controller. Medico-Olenjinsky of Wright Township will face Democratic candidate and Cunningham Township tax collector Michelle Bednar in the November general election. Walter Griffith resigned earlier this month and is facing criminal felony charges for illegal wiretapping. The controller's position is one of the few remaining elected positions under Luzerne County's home rule government. Well, if you drive through Greater Hazleton every day, there is some road work along Route 309 you ought to know about. Construction started today and is expected to take place until the end of this week along Route 309 in Hazleton near the Driver's License Center. Repairs are being made on a Norfolk Southern Railroad crossing, and the road will be closed to traffic coming from both directions. Detours will be in place for traffic at the Arthur Gardner Parkway as well as Buttonwood Street. Along with this construction project, you can also expect road work next week on the railroad crossing at South Church and Chestnut Streets. Part of the South Church Street will be closed and traffic will be detoured at Broad and Church as well as Juniper Street. The project is expected to last a week as well. While PennDOT had planned to finish up Hazleton's Broad Street Corridor project this year, Christina Papa tells us some damage to the street has slowed down construction, and now the project won't be wrapped up until next year.
Detours, orange cones. Construction in Hazleton isn't a new thing.
I'm hoping that they get it done soon. I mean, the sidewalks are looking nice. The roads are a mess.
While construction is coming along, crews may be here a little longer than expected.
The original plan was to have everything done by the end of this construction season, which would be normally about November timeframe. A section from about Vine to Cedar, we do anticipate having a small delay in that.
PennDOT says a binding coat will be in place by the end of the year, so roads will be in good shape, but not finished.
But there's another top coat that goes over top of the binding coat. That will not be done until spring of next year.
Construction slowed once crews found an issue with the cement underneath the asphalt. Now they're going to have to repave it before they can do any other work in the area.
they realized that it was really in a very, very bad situation. It was deteriorating, and they had to actually go in, modify the contract, and they're now replacing a lot of that concrete in this section.
Crews are working on tearing out that concrete today, and their hard work hasn't gone unnoticed.
I know they're doing their best. They're working hard. You know, I don't see them sitting around having coffee breaks all the time, so.
While a few sidewalks may be unfinished, PennDOT spokesperson James May says most folks won't be able to tell.
At the end of this year, a lot of people will see what's done, they'll see everybody leave, and they may think that's the finished product. There will still be a few other minor things that will be carried over until next spring.
PennDOT says the finishing touches to the road in spring won't take more than a few months.
It'll get better. I mean, it's already starting to look better. I lived here when it was a complete mess, so it looks beautiful compared to what it used to look like.
Christina Papa, News 13, Hazleton.
And still ahead on News 13, once the clouds go away, we'll head back to some actual summer weather. We'll tell you all about it in News 13 weather. But first, we'll take it back in time to look at what life was like in our region during an historic time in our nation's past. Just ahead on News 13. A visit to the Eckley Miners Village is always a step back in time, but over the weekend, it stepped back a little bit further. People might call it to a simpler time, but life really wasn't all that simple, according to Christina Papa.
Let's take a step back in time. It's Eckley Miners Village in the 1860s. These ladies are hard at work, cooking.
One batch is already gone.
And cleaning. And if they were lucky, some had downtime. Still, life in Eckley Miners Village was a little different back in the 1800s.
Carrying water, carrying wood, just lifting these heavy cast iron pots, rolling out the dough, kneading dough. It was a lot of work.
Especially during the Civil War.
The living's kind of hard. We sleep in tents that are made of canvas, no bottoms on the ground. We cook all our food on the fire, and we live like Civil War soldiers.
But these folks are only reenactors who helped bring the Civil War era back to life this weekend at the Living History and Civil War event at Eckley Miners Village.
They use these buildings and things, so it's very nice, and you get to go through and see how they actually did live, the small quarters, and that they had to work.
The reenactors have set up camp and planned to tough out the long weekend, sleeping in these tents behind me, just like the real soldiers would have back in the 1800s.
The 12th New Jersey came up to the village to help celebrate the Civil War event this weekend.
We're only pretending like we're fighting. I can't even imagine guys living for months on end like we are living on this weekend and fighting a war.
Visitors got the chance to walk down the old dirt road to see how people really lived. Paul Kenny and his family were vacationing in the area and decided to take a trip to the old mining village. He calls the event both fun and educational.
You get to see the soldiers dressed up in period pieces. You get to see some of the things that they had gone through, the way they had lived their lives 150 years ago, back during the American Civil War, and you get an understanding of it.
And even though the original 81st was mustered out of Eckley, this weekend they celebrated the event with a battle. They say they'll continue to reenact the battle every year to keep the history of the town alive. Christina Papa, News 13, Eckley Miners Village.
And time now for our regional weather from the National Weather Service. Checking the radar, plenty of pop-up storms moving through the region at this hour. We're going to see them continue right into the evening, but they'll pretty much be gone by the overnight. Creative condition is on the verge of spectacular. It's by Jennifer Guzman, a student at West Hazleton Elementary Middle School, and she drew a beautiful sunny day on a tropical island with lots of palm trees and tropical fish and some really terrific sunshine. And now let's take a look at News 13 weather from the National Weather Service for Greater Hazleton. For tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 59 degrees. And for Tuesday, sunny with a high near 80. Clear at night with a low around 62. Heading on over to Schuylkill County for tonight, partly cloudy with a low down to 59. Then Tuesday, mostly sunny with a beautiful high of 84 degrees. It'll be clear at night with a low around 59. Well, it was a Hazleton area tradition, and one local parish celebrated their culture the best way they know how, with family and plenty of Italian food. Queen of Heaven Parish closed off the street so they would have room to celebrate St. Mauro's Italian Festival over the weekend. Plenty of parishioners as well as other folks from the community came out to enjoy the delicious homemade Italian cuisine. The parish also set up fun games for the kids, and downstairs in the church they had tricky trays and bingo set up. The parish got a lot of support from families in the community.
How family is involved, so it's fun seeing everyone, and everyone that works the stands here, they're all family, they're all related, and it's good food, a lot of good food, a lot of Italian food. Pizza, fried dough, there's pasta dinners, there's a lot of pasta, desserts, drinks, wine, all that kind of stuff.
We got food and games, Italian ethnic, some Eastern European foods. We've got a flea market downstairs, tricky trays, bingo. We've got music, a DJ.
And I just like the atmosphere, being around people.
Wash your hands when you're dirty.
And of course, on Sunday, the parish held a special procession where they pinned money on St. Mauro's statue. All the proceeds from the entire weekend donated to the church. And let's check the winning midday lottery numbers. Good luck if you play. The Daily 350, Big 4 6042, Quinto 32946, and the Treasure Hunt 10, 13, 16, 18, 19. Hope you won.
Good evening, everyone, and here's tonight's Talk of the Town report. First tonight, the Holy Door Mission Friary will be holding a blue mass to honor firefighters and emergency personnel that risk their lives every day. The service will be held Sunday, August 25th at 4 p.m. There will be a blessing of equipment and a social in the hall afterwards. For more information, please call 570-788-1212, extension 400. And finally, the Shenandoah Combined Veterans Group is the honorary Grand Marshal for the Shenandoah Heritage Day of Parade of Nations. Veterans will lead the parade marching and riding on an antique fire bus. Heritage Day is set for August 24th at 10 a.m. For more info, please call 570-462-2060. That's tonight's Talk of the Town. News 13 would like to send sincere condolences to the family and friends of these recently departed. Vincent J. Rosado. Funeral will be held Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. from the Stanley E. Analoski Funeral Home. Friends may call Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Anna Rock, formerly of Hazelton. Services were held Monday at the Queen of Heaven Parish at Our Lady of Grace Church. Arrangements were under the direction of the Joseph B. Conahan Funeral Home. William J. Baran of Hazelton. Funeral is Tuesday at 10 a.m. from the Rosenstock Funeral Home. Friends may call Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Anna Grigas of Shenandoah. The Lukavitz-Orovitz-Fell Funeral Home is in charge of arrangements. And L. Douglas Millett of Berwick. Funeral will be held Tuesday at 2 p.m. from the Cornerstone Bible Church. Friends may call Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Arrangements are under the direction of the James L. Hinckley Funeral Home. Tonight's obituaries have been brought to you by the Smilax Floral Shop located on 15th Street in Hazelton. For delivery to all local funeral homes, call 570-454-0111. And by Doves of White, serving Schuylkill and surrounding counties, call 570-205-1597.
SSPTV Sports on News 13.
The Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders haven't had necessarily the season they'd like. They're 5th place in their North League and 5 games below 500. That doesn't mean there wasn't some fireworks for them, and especially over the weekend. Some minor league baseball being played yesterday over the weekend, and for the Rail Riders, there was some excitement. Friday, the Rail Riders were able to take 3 of 4 from the Knights with a 6-5 win. Then Saturday, on their crosstown rivals in the Iron Pigs, the squad was defeated in a close one, 4-3. So now the stage was set for yesterday. A nice day out at the park, and there was some fireworks set off. In the bottom of the 9th with no score, Dan Johnson, the man who has been in charge of hitting the long ball, stepped up to the plate and delivered. Johnson, the 2-run home run, winning it for the Rail Riders and beating the Iron Pigs in the second of 4 games being played head-to-head. Russ Kanzler had a night off this weekend. Kanzler played Friday and went 0 for 3 at the plate. Kanzler and his team unable to provide that much offense that would spark a win. The Indians falling to the Columbus Clippers 5-2 on Friday. Saturday, Kanzler got the night off in his team's 3-1 win, but yesterday, Kanzler getting back onto the field for his team. Kanzler went 1 for 4 in the Indians' 3-2 win over the Clippers. Kanzler's batting average staying put at .255. Taking a quick look at some of the upcoming games tonight, we're going to hopefully say Russ Kanzler is on the diamond when the Indians of Indy take on Syracuse. Graham Godfrey going on the hill for the Indians. Godfrey 5 wins, 4 losses this season, and fresh off their win, the Rail Riders continue their series tonight against the Iron Pigs at Lehigh. The Iron Pigs will certainly have their hands full as they take on the ace of the Rail Rider staff in Chris Buchek, who's 9-6 with an impressive 3.67 ERA. Buchek is opposed by Tyler Cloyd, who is having a lackluster season so far. Tonight's MLB schedule looks like this. The Phillies without Charlie Manuel. How weird is that? face the Rockies. Joe Madden and his Rays, really looking for a boost to drive them into the playoffs, are up against their AL East foe in the Orioles. The Pirates are looking to hold on to that 2-game lead over the Cards as they head out west to take on the Padres of San Diego. Surprising news coming out of the MLB this weekend as Royals shortstop and former MVP Miguel Tejada has been suspended 100 games, and Tejada has expected the suspension and has offered teams and fans apologies already. Now, Tejada's suspension is noteworthy because it is now the 3rd longest non-gambling suspension ever offered in the MLB, and is also the 2nd former MVP to be suspended. Now, the other MVP is Alex Rodriguez, and he awaits his appeal for what could be a 211-game suspension and the largest non-gambling suspension ever handed out in baseball. Some local racing was on tap this weekend at the Mountain Speedway in St. John's, where 5 races were featured at the racetrack. In the late models, which is 30 laps, Kyle Harville took the race while Mitch Hawk was right behind him, finishing 2nd. In the street stock race, Kevin Higgins prevailed to take home gold. Paul Morgan Sr., who has been all over the record books at the track, won in a 20-lap factor stock. And racer Scott Adams also got on the board with a win as he prevailed in the 20-lap 4-cylinder race. And Chuck Potts beat the rest of the pack, winning in the dirt modifieds. Enjoy your Monday. That's all I got for sports.
41 years ago yesterday, in 1972, Steve Carlton of the Phillies pitched his 15th consecutive victory with a decision over the Cincinnati Reds at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. Hi, everybody. This is Trivia Treats. Carlton completed a remarkable season in 1972 in which he posted a 27-10 record on a team that was 59-92. He almost won half of their wins. What is even more amazing, he completed 10 games of the 41 he started while ending that season with an ERA of 1.97. This season, in all of Major League Baseball, a total of all pitchers combined, 30 complete games is not a guarantee. In fact, it's not even likely. 39 years ago in 1974, Dodgers second baseman Davey Lopes hit 3 homers during an 18-8 thrashing of the Cubs at Wrigley in Chicago. Heading into that game, Lopes had hit just 9 home runs in 955 career at-bats. 23 years ago tomorrow, in 1990, Cincy Reds left fielder Billy Hatcher tied a Major League record by hitting 4 doubles in a win over the Cubs at Riverfront Stadium. But the game is remembered by Cincinnati fans for the tirade thrown by Reds manager Lou Piniella. During an argument with first base umpire, Piniella unrooted first base and heaved it toward right field. Of course, he was ejected. But 2 nights later, the Cincinnati Enquirer newspaper sponsored a base throwing contest on Fountain Square in downtown Cincinnati to see if anyone could top Piniella's 35-foot toss. The mayor of Cincinnati, Charlie Lukács, claimed first prize with a throw measuring 43¼ feet, and despite throwing in high heels, reporter Mary Kritko won the women's division with a fling of 40 feet. Mother of God. And speaking of exhibitions, in an exhibition at Yankee Stadium on this day in 1942, to raise money for the Army and Navy relief funds during the war, 71 years ago on this day, 47-year-old Babe Ruth battled against 56-year-old Walter Johnson. Ruth and Johnson were 2 of the original 5 members that opened the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1936 at Cooperstown in New York. A crowd of over 69,000 turned out to witness the matchup held between games of a doubleheader between the Yankees and the Washington Senators. Johnson threw 6 pitches that day. Ruth belted the 5th pitch into the lower right field stands, and on Johnson's 6th and last pitch, the Babe hit a ball into the upper deck in right field, but in foul territory. A total of over $80,000 was raised on that day for the wartime charities. 6 years later, and 60 years ago yesterday, Babe Ruth died 2 days before Hazelton High's legendary basketball coach Huey McGeehan's death in 1948. Both were only 53 years old. Till Friday, be a good sport. Stay loose.
Well, hundreds of bikers made their way to a benefit concert in honor of a very special girl from Mountaintop who's struggling with cystic fibrosis. Nearly 150 riders drove to the American Legion in Mountaintop for a concert to benefit the Northeast Pennsylvania chapter of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation in honor of 7-year-old Paige Caesar. Paige was diagnosed with a genetic disease when she was born. The entire community came out to the event where plenty of popular bands from the area played for the crowd, and even more than the music, there were llamas and miniature ponies for the kids to ride, and they could even play some paintball. The Caesar family says it is so grateful for all the support.
We're hopeful for the most part. We made it through the bike ride. We had close to 150 bikes, which is great. And as you can see, we have a lot of local people help out. We have Dave's Tattooing. You can get tattoos. We have a pig roast. We have a dunk tank. We have paintball, gift baskets, beer, face painting, a lot of local supporters.
Just a lot of people, and they're having fun. Thank you for supporting me.
And since the family began the ride in 2008, they have raised close to $30,000. And here's what our media partner, the Standard Speaker, is working on for tomorrow's edition. This summer, a woman pulled a little red wagon of supplies back and forth to Cunningham United Methodist Church. Find out what she's up to today in the Tuesday edition of the Standard Speaker. And plenty more news and information headed your way on News 13. More on heightened security in one area school district in light of the school violence in Connecticut. That story and much more news when the 13 crew comes right back.